ca.gov/boards. Your comments must be received before I call for the close of the commenting period in order to be considered. After the commenting period is closed, I will announce a brief pause to allow the commissioners time to read any comments that have been received. If you have difficulty or need assistance with e-comment during the meeting, please call 619-576-5366 and the city attorney's office staff will assist you. Marissa, could you call the roll, please?
Chair O'Donnell.
Here.
Vice Chair Schofield.
Here.
Commissioner Budding.
Here.
Commissioner Disharoon.
Here.
Commissioner Glantz.
Here.
Commissioner Hopita.
Here.
Commissioner McDonald.
Here.
Thank you and welcome all. I'm going to open now. The public comments is the section on the agenda for members of the public to address the board on items that are not listed on the agenda. I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final public comments.
I'll just use my phone. Okay, Marissa, can you see me now? I ended up transitioning over to my phone.
I can see you.
Okay. I'll just
Commenting period for public comments is now closed.
No comments received.
Thank you very much. We're going to shake and bake a little bit on the agenda tonight. We have a staff comments next. We have a special guest that Jill Malin will introduce to us. Jill?
Thank you, Chair O'Donnell, and thank you for rearranging the items a bit. We have, by way of introduction, a newly appointed, although not new to the city by any stretch of the imagination, a newly appointed city manager who is here tonight to introduce herself and say a few words to the commission. And she's been with the city for longer than I have been, and we're truly privileged, I think, to have her running our ship now. And her name is Maria Cachadorian, and I'll turn it over to her.
okay. So I'm having a lot of technical problems right now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I can barely hear you, so I'm gonna, hopefully you can hear me. But I really didn't want to take a lot of your time away from your meeting. I just wanted to kind of take the time here to introduce myself as the new city manager here for the city of Chula Vista. Again, my name is Maria Cachadorian. I've been with the city now for about 22 years. I came from the county of San Diego, have my background in audits, and earned my degree in accounting from San Diego State University. But the majority of my career here with the city has been in the finance department. So I was the finance director during the Great Recession. So we went through a lot during that time. So I was able to gain a lot of experience in how to manage a city through a crisis. Never did I think that I would find myself in this position at this time within the middle of a pandemic. So, you know, coming into this job in this current time with everything going on in the world, of course, is a challenge. But I'm really honored to have taken, you know, the position, and really am enjoying working with staff at a different level. Being in a position where hopefully I can continue moving the city forward with a lot of the projects that we're working on, you know, spending a lot of time working on our Bayfront development project. We're very hopeful that that'll come forward. We'll have a groundbreaking hopefully next year. That's one of the top priorities. But my top priority right now really has to be to try to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep our community safe during this, you know, health crisis, because that's really what this is a public health crisis. And that's where our focus has been, working with staff at all levels to try to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep everyone safe. So far, I think the city has been doing a pretty good job in that area, but we do need everyone's help and cooperation in making sure that we keep messaging the public and what we need to do. Actually was working on my goals as a city manager, and then my hard drive crashed, so I lost everything I was working on. So I'm going to go back to the drawing board on drafting my goals that I want to present to the management team and to the executive team. But a lot of good things are still happening in Chula Vista. And one of the things that we made sure when we were going through the financial crisis is that we made sure that we were better prepared, you know, to be able to manage through the next financial crisis, because it always comes. Clearly, we didn't expect this type of an economic challenging crisis, but we are better positioned as a city to try to keep, you know, our service levels up. You know, when we go through a financial crisis, a lot of times we see cities having to make cuts, and this is actually a time when our public needs us the most. So I was very happy to see that all the work that we had done over the last 10 years in trying to get the city back on a really good financial footing is actually benefiting the community today, because we really didn't have to cut positions. We did have to freeze about 10 positions, but for the most part, the permanent positions that we have, we continue to fund. And a lot of the positions in our library and rec centers have shifted over to try to help our community, as I mentioned, during this time of crisis. We are actually going to start partnering with the County of San Diego to do contact tracing when it comes to the COVID crisis. And we're also going to partner with them on opening up another testing site at the South Chula Vista Library. We're trying to focus in on the areas of the city that are being impacted the most to try to address as much of this as we can. So we have our full plates. Everything that I do, everything that I work on has to go through the city attorney's office. So Jill is very involved in a lot of things that we're working on. And we're going to make sure we keep everybody busy, because again, you know, even though we're in the middle of a financial crisis and a pandemic, there's so many opportunities that are in front of us as a city that we have to make sure we don't drop the ball and miss out on those opportunities that are going to make a big difference to the city in the long term. So very excited again to take on the position in the current times. And I really want to thank you for everything that you're doing. I know you have a lot of work in front of you, and I know you brought forward a lot of work to the council for consideration, and hopefully that will come back at some point. But really just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce myself. I wish we could do this in person, so I can actually personally meet everyone, and hopefully someday soon I'll be able to do that. But one of the goals that I have is to really introduce myself to all our boards and commissions. I know a lot of people already, because I said before, I've been here a long time, but very happy to be serving the city in the capacity of as a city manager in the current times. So with that, I'll let you get back to your business. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to just really introduce myself. And hopefully again, I'll be back in person and we can actually have a conversation at some point. But thank you again. All right.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you.
I was going to move on now to item number 5, which is, it's really not an action item for the commission, but more of a report out by staff on the most recent city council consideration of the work that the commission did and the proposed amendments that we worked on for really a couple of years, and that we took forward to the council in July. And some of you I know were either actually on or listening to that meeting or have subsequently been informed about what took place there, but I just wanted to report out officially on it that the commission, or excuse me, the council was very appreciative and pleased with all the work that the commission did. And due to the kind of the financial situation and the uncertainties right now surrounding the finances and the unknowns that may be coming with the economic situation and the pandemic and so many factors, that they were reluctant to spend the money to put this on the ballot in November 2020. Because it is a lot, as you may recall, it's a lot of money to put this actually as a ballot measure. So they did not make the decision to put it on the November 2020 ballot, but they did ask that it come back for consideration for the next opportunity, which is in 2022. So I've preserved all the excellent work that the commission did, and staff actually has already contacted me and they want to add to that with some other ideas that they have. So we're going to keep that package together and add to it and improve on it and bring it back in a couple of years when it can go. As you may recall, it has to go on a general election. So the next opportunity is November 2022, a statewide general election. So we will be bringing it back to the council for consideration at that time. So that was my report out on that, and then I'll turn it back over to Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you, Jill. Appreciate it. Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners for Jill or staff on this issue? Okay, so I'll now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on this item. As a reminder, there we go. Start the 2 minutes.
No comments at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. On to the next item, and that is we have a couple of new commissioners, Mr. Disharoon and Mr. Glantz. If we can go alphabetically, if you gentlemen would just give us a short bio, let us know who you are.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dean Disharoon. I've been a longtime Chula Vista resident. I'm married with 2 kids and retired from the old Rohr company that became the Goodrich company that became the United Technologies company, and had a 38-year career there and went back and did several years of consulting, but 40 years in aerospace, serve the community quite a bit through volunteering, Boys and Girls Club, Cub Scouts, just church, all kinds of community activities, but I've never offered up any services to the city. So I'm quite excited about this volunteer activity. I'm really looking forward to trying to help everybody on the commission and everyone in the city.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Todd Bland, graduated from Hilltop High School, San Diego.
Excuse me 1 minute, Mr. Glantz. Maybe you can turn the volume up.
I have to repeat that, huh?
That's better. Yes,
Is that better?
that's much better.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, I like talking about myself, so let me try again. Todd Glanz, born in San Diego, raised in Chula Vista, Hilltop High School. I am a lawyer. I'll get better with this, you around for a while back, and I look forward to getting involved with the Charter Commission here. I have a family. I live in Chula Vista. I've got 3 sons, and we're in the East Lake area. I think that's pretty good.
All right. Thank you very much. And just a quick side note to Mr. Disharoon, my wife's last 15 years were with the Gore, Goodrich, and UTC folks as well.
It's a good family.
At least it was. I'm not so sure anymore. I got that East Coast culture now taking over, but that's another day. Okay. Next item will be the approval of the July 1st, 2020 special meeting minutes. Are there any questions or comments, concerns?
Sorry
I'm
to interrupt. Do we need to do the 2 minutes for the first item?
For the introduction. Is that a yes, we do, because no one's saying anything?
I think
I'll
we
call a
do.
2-minute period for
Yeah,
comments.
I'm
on
fine.
previous
We,
items.
there's no council action, so we don't need to do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Jill. All right, so back to the minutes. Any issues, comments, additions, deletions? All right, do I have a motion? Yes, I'm sorry, Edgar.
I want to hold a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, second out there?
I'd like to second. This is Jim Schofield.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, all in favor? Aye. I'm sorry, you have to do that yourself, don't you, Marissa?
Yes, I will now request each member's vote by roll call. Chair O'Donnell,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schofield,
Aye.
Commissioner Budding,
Aye.
Commissioner Disharoon,
Aye.
Commissioner Glantz,
Aye.
Commissioner Hopita,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald. Aye. Thank you.
Okay, I'll now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on this item.
No comments.
Chair O'Donnell, I think you're still on mute.
Oh, you're good. I just unmuted.
Oh, okay. Start over. Man, So the next item on our agenda is a request to excuse Commissioner Hopita from the March 11th, 2020 regular meeting. You have to say for yourself, Edgar.
Wait, excuse me, Chair O'Donnell, was there a
Yes.
vote on the last motion?
Yes. I was out of order, but we did vote.
Okay.
I think I did better last time at this than this
Okay.
time. All right. So I saw one attachment for an excuse for Edgar. I guess my first question, where's the other four, Edgar?
Yeah, well, for this one in particular is an emergency work excuse where I was stuck on a project I couldn't get out of work, and so that's why I wasn't able to attend, and I wasn't able to contact Marissa or anybody in the city in time. So that's why I'm putting in this request.
Okay. Any questions from any of the commissioners?
I noticed your name isn't spelled right on the paper.
Whoops.
You're missing the final A.
That should render it invalid.
Are you speaking about the request excused absence form?
Somewhere I saw it didn't have the final A.
From the one I printed out today, it looks like the full name was spelled correctly.
Okay.
Okay. I'll now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on this item. Okay, the commenting period for this item is now closed. Any
No
comments?
comments.
Thank you. We now call for a roll call on this vote.
Don't we have to move in second?
We need a motion.
So
I'm sorry. I'll second.
I will now request each member's vote by roll call. Chair O'Donnell,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schofield,
Aye.
Commissioner Budding, Commissioner Budding,
Aye.
Commissioner Sharoon,
Aye.
Commissioner Glantz, Commissioner Glantz, I just unmuted you. Commissioner Hopita,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald.
Aye.
Thank you.
Chair, I think you're still on mute.
Okay, sorry. Next item on the agenda is to appoint a representative to the Board of Ethics interview panel. Anytime they have a vacancy on the ethics board, one of us sits on their panel to elect future ethics commissioners. Is there any input from you, Jill, or?
Yes, a little bit. We currently Commissioner McDonald serves on it, and she can continue, or you can select another commissioner tonight based on your vote. Just as far as timing, they do have a current opening, and so there would be action on this probably within the next 30 days, and then there may be additional action throughout the next fiscal year.
Okay. Any questions on this from panel members?
No questions, but that's what I'm interested in. If whoever's currently doing it, I didn't quite catch it, is otherwise engaged or something. I just offer that.
Okay, very good. First, let's see. First, I'm going to have to call for a 2-minute.
I think Commissioner Schofield had a comment.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
just want to make sure I understand. Currently, Rachel is on filling this position. And does she want to continue? Do you want to continue?
I don't have to. Our new commissioner, Glantz, is interested. He's more than welcome to take over since I have done it already once. I don't mind since he has interest. If nobody wants to do it, I will continue. But since someone is offering, he can take over.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
I need to call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any comments on this item before we
You want a motion first?
proceed. I think the motion will come after, but Jill, you can correct me on that.
I agree. We should take public comment first.
Okay, now close the commenting period for this item. No comments, I assume?
No comments.
Okay, do I have a motion out there?
I move that we appoint Todd to be the representative to the Board of Ethics.
I'll second. Marissa, could you take a vote, please?
I will now request each member's vote by roll call. Chair O'Donnell,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schofield,
Aye.
Commissioner Budding, Commissioner Disharoon,
Aye.
Commissioner Glantz,
Aye.
Commissioner Hopita,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, next up on our list, boy, we're chewing through these, folks. Good job. We have consideration and potential action regarding a request from Raymond Resigo to examine potential charter amendment to change our current voting system to approval voting. Other than the enclosed attachment, was there anything else, Jill, to present on this?
I really don't. This was just an unsolicited request and comment that came through for the commission's consideration. You may remember, for those of you who have been on the commission, that we have discussed this in prior commission meetings. Robert Ross was one, I believe, who brought this up previously. So it's not a new topic, but it could certainly be taken up again by the commission, and in consideration of the fact that we'll probably be going back to the council in preparation for the 2022 election. So it's up to the commission on how they want to proceed on this, if they want to place it on a future agenda and we can come back with more information, or if you're not interested in taking it up, or if you have some other action.
I'll open it to the commissioners first, if anyone has any comments.
Yeah, I have a question and a comment, I guess. I read through that and I did a little investigating, because my paradigm is the election system is okay as is. When the commission interrogated the issue before, was there a problem statement that the team, came up with? I mean, do we have something that we consider to be broken or in need of improvement? Or is this just I don't want to use spitballing, but is this just something that was thrown at the commission for a good idea?
I'll take that. None of you commissioners. I wouldn't say, I would say it kind of falls in the middle of that. There was one commissioner who viewed this as an option that should be considered by the commission. Not necessarily for a specific problem in Chula Vista, but just in his viewpoint that it should be considered. And we didn't take any specific action in response. I would have to go back historically to give you all the details on that, but I wouldn't say that it was voted up or down. It's just been a topic and not actually acted upon one way or the other.
So in the dialogue, I don't know who all talked about it, but I mean, is it something that we really want to consider or investigate? I mean, the first thing I would do is talk to the people that have done it, find out if the customer of the process, the voter, I guess, feels like it was an improvement. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting concept, but I don't quite understand why it's being championed.
I really like the idea. I think it's progressive, so to speak, and I would like to have a deliberation on what I understand is a recommendation.
I can't hear you.
Hear me? How about now?
That's better.
Okay. I think it's a great idea, at least to deliberate on and have on the agenda. As I understand, it's a proposal for a type of ranked voting. And I think that is a very relevant idea in terms of making the democratic process better. I'd like to see it deliberated on and put on the agenda. It is something I've heard quite a bit about from the public or other people.
Anyone else?
Good, go for it.
I have a question maybe for Jill. Is there a particular charter section reference that I could look this into, or current election law reference?
Well, our current charter obviously addresses how we conduct our elections, and it isn't a ranked voting system. So you would have to look outside of the city of Chula Vista to find other jurisdictions who implement this system. And I don't know off the top of my head which cities or states that may do that. So that would be something, if the commission does want to take this up, that would be some research that we would do and bring back to you.
What I was asking was what's the status quo law on this on this particular style of, or not style, but for the election. You know what I mean? Like, so they're proposing a new system. Where's the reference for how the law is, as you know, how the law is now as far as elections?
In our charter,
So-
Jay answered. It's in our charter.
Yeah. What's the section? I was asking for the section.
Oh, I believe it's 900 or our election section.
Okay.
If you read his material, there's 2 cities in the country that have switched to this. St. Louis, Missouri was one, and for the life of me, I can't remember the other.
Fargo,
Thank you.
which,
Surprised it isn't Portland.
North Dakota.
if you've seen the movie, that makes sense.
Okay. This guy seems a little bit bent about Commissioner Diaz, but I guess that's another story. And also in the people that are pro this type of system, the jungle primary system is their favorite definition of our current system. But that's all I got to say.
I have a question or comment. Okay.
Please.
Okay. So I saw this is very interesting. I remember probably 30 years ago, I was watching something on public access, and there was a professor from Harvard, and she showed like 5 different voting schemes or systems and number of candidates. And she managed to explain how, depending on which system you use, any one of them could have been elected. It was pretty interesting. I don't remember the details, but I do. The approval voting and ranked choice voting are different. And I did a quick Google on approval versus, and then it filled in ranked choice voting. First website said approval voting is the simplest and best, and they gave a long explanation. Very good. I learned a lot. Said ranked choice voting is the best and the simplest way to run your elections. So clearly there's some research to be done if we want to do this. I do find it very interesting. Whether it's worth our time and effort, that's up to other people to decide, but I think it's definitely very interesting.
Thank you. Don? Rachel?
I think this is something we could look into. I know that they have it on the ballot in San Diego to do a ranked choice voting over there. So maybe it's something we could look into, to doing something similar. What they're doing, to have 4 people you would vote for in the primaries if it passes in San Diego, which we would get to see, I guess, if they pass it. because we'll still be talking about it probably, but I think that it's something we could look into if everybody else is.
Okay, thank you. I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any comments on this item. Okay, the commenting period for this item is now closed. Were there any comments?
No comments.
Thank you. All right, do we have a motion on this, folks? I've heard a couple of different strategies, but I'm looking for a motion is to go forward and, well, hell, I'll make the motion. I motion we investigate this further with some background review and at least dedicate some time to discuss it more openly amongst ourselves.
I second. Edgar Hopita seconds.
I have a question. I have a question.
Okay.
Does that mean it's going to be agendized?
Hard to hear you.
Okay, does it mean it's going to be agendized?
That's the motion, yes.
Okay, great.
Any other questions on the motion?
My question is we each going to do our own research and then discuss it?
I would ask that happen, as well as Jill will do some background for us, or her staff. Okay, Marissa.
Okay. I will now request each member's vote by roll call. Chair O'Donnell,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schofield,
Aye.
Commissioner Budding,
Aye.
Commissioner DeSharoon,
Aye.
Commissioner Glantz,
Aye.
Commissioner Hopita,
Aye.
and Commissioner McDonald.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, last item up tonight is the consideration and potential action on commission process to select a pool of the 10 eligible applicants for the 2020 Redistricting Commission in accordance with Charter Section 300.5D. Well, I take it this is your show.
Thank you, Chair O'Donnell. Yes, for you and others who may have been on the commission at the time, just as a recap, the Charter Review Commission is charged with the task of the initial selection of pool of applicants for appointment to the Districting Commission. So we went through this back in 2015 for the very first, the initial Districting Commission. And now the 2020 census is being done. And once that information comes out, we will be forming a redistricting commission. So we have already solicited applications for that commission. And then we have our city clerk with us tonight, and I think other members of her staff who can fill in some additional information, who have been instrumental in soliciting those applications and have done the initial review to make sure that they meet kind of the first blush minimum criteria to qualify for appointment to the commission. The next steps will be for the Charter Review Commission to review those applications and to go through a process to cull it down to a pool of 10. And from that, we will randomly select 4. And those initially selected 4 will select the additional 3 for a total of a 7-member commission. So the plan for tonight is to come out with a plan, and we provided you with the plan that was used, or the process, I should say, that was used back in 2015 to go through that process. And so I want to turn it over to Carrie Bigelow with some more information on what that initial plan was and what maybe some recommendations for this next go around.
Thank you, Jill, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for being involved. Thank you in advance for being involved in this very important process of selecting our upcoming redistricting commission. Before we start talking about the process, we wanted to give you a little bit of background on the applications that we've received and the timeline that we're shooting for, and then we'll discuss the options for the selection process. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Christina Hernandez, who's an analyst in the city clerk's office, and she'll talk a little bit about the applications and the timeline, and then we'll start getting into the potential processes that you may select to select the members going forward.
Good evening, commissioners. So just to go over a little bit of the process background before this timeline is that we opened the applications for the 2020 Redistricting Commission on April 10th, and we originally had it June 30th. But with COVID, we wanted to give our public a longer chance to submit applications. So we extended it to July 31st, soon after we opened it. We did receive 49 applications. 1 withdrew, and then we did contact 15 applicants for missing information. 12 of those did respond and complete their application. So there was 3 that remained incomplete. We contacted them several times to try to get the information. So where we stand is 45 completed applications for the Redistricting Commission for your consideration. And Carrie will go over some of the proposed processes to be able to rank those 45 and get down to the Redistricting Commission, as Jill explained a little bit. And so we're going to focus on this top line. And if we rank the applications and we are ready to select those 4 out of the pool of 10 by the next regular meeting for the Charter Review Commission on October 14th. What that allows is for those 4 Redistricting Commission members to then select the remaining 3 towards the end of October, with our goal of having council ratify all 7 members by November 3rd. And the reason why that timeline is recommended is because that is really when the Redistricting Commission needs to start looking for their outreach consultant and their mapping consultant. And then if you look a little bit further on the timeline, the census report, when we actually will receive all of the data, will be March 31st. So that gives them if this timeline is followed, that kind of gives them from January through March to plan and do all of the things that they need to do to be ready when that census information is released. And then there's other requirements, as you can see through the timeline, but for our purposes, just kind of wanted to show you the process in the beginning of selecting the Redistricting Commission and what we recommend. And then Carrie, did you want to then go over processing those 45 applications?
Yes. So I know, I think Chair O'Donnell, you may have been the only one who was on the commission when we went through this process before. And it was actually even under a former city clerk. So Jill was also involved, I'm sure can fill in any gaps for us. But we did share with you as part of your agenda packet the previous process that was used to select the members. And Leah's going to share that on the screen here for us. Just to go through, Leah, if you could go on to the next page. In the first year for the original Districting Commission, the city received 25 applications. And so it's my understanding that there was a subcommittee of the Charter Review Commission that was formed to come up with this process in order to select the pool of 10 potential members of the Districting Commission. So for the initial screening, that was reducing the number from the full 25 who applied to a group of about 15 individuals to be considered further. In order to do that, there's several components that the Charter Review Commissioners were to take into consideration, such as relevant knowledge, demonstrated analytic ability, demonstrated ability to serve impartially in a nonpartisan role, experience in public communications and outreach, and experience in civic and or volunteer activities in the city of Chula Vista. Consideration also needs to be given to geographic, ethnic, racial, and gender diversity. So what the original Charter Review Commission did when they were selecting the Redistricting Commission is they took all 25 applicants and rated them from 1 to 25. So each application was provided a score. Those scores were then provided to the city clerk, who used those scores to determine the highest ranked individuals who would be moving further along in the process. So the top 15 applicants were, I'm sorry, before we get to the top 15, the city clerk performed the rankings, and then the Human Resources Department did a diversity analysis. So analyzing the diversity of the people who had applied and the diversity of the people who were selected to move forward. City staff then presented the rankings along with the diversity analysis back to the commission for the commission's review. And the commission then had an opportunity to add to that group of 15 depending on diversity. So for example, if there was only one applicant who, at the time we didn't have districts, but what's now District 4, say if there was only one applicant in District 4, the commission may have wanted to throw in a couple more applicants for District 4 in order to give more representation throughout the city, as an example. The Charter Review Commission then settled on the final list of applicants that were going to move forward. So that was stage 1. The next stage was the interview process. So the Charter Review Commission then held 2 public notice meetings and had the final applicants come in for individual interviews. This is where it's going to get a little bit tricky for us because times are different right now where we can't meet in person and we can't invite necessarily these applicants to come in and provide individual interviews. So at that time, the applicants were asked to provide a candidate statement, answer the question, why do you want to be on the Districting Commission? The Charter Review Commission had the opportunity to ask follow-up, and the candidates who were not being interviewed at the time were asked to wait in the lobby as a courtesy to those who were applying. Leah, could you scroll down please to page 3? Thank you. The Charter Review Commission had decided that participation in the interview process was mandatory. The commission did come up with a potential waiver for that if somebody wasn't able to attend. Public comment will be allowed at each meeting where there are decisions being made as far as the applicants who are moving forward. At the conclusion of all of the interviews, the Charter Review Commission then went through a process to select 10 from that group of 15 or more. I believe there were maybe 17 or 18 based on the diversity analysis that the commission had added in a couple of extra applicants. So this was how the commission came down to 10. And then from that pool of 10, I or staff from my office will perform a random selection to select the first 4 commissioners who will be seated or who are seated on the Districting Commission, and then going forward as well, who will be seated on the Redistricting Commission. So that's to give you a little bit of background about how the process worked last time. We have discussed internally what some ideas and options are for you moving forward now that we're having virtual meetings. And on top of that, we have almost double the number of applicants, which is fantastic. It just gives more for you to review and may not quite be conducive to the original process that was used. So in this next step, I planned on throwing out some ideas that we have come up with or some suggestions that the commission might want to consider. And we're certainly available to answer any questions, or if the commission wants to deliberate and decide on how it wants to move forward. For the initial screening, and Leah, if you could go back up, I think it's on page 2 where the initial screening is, just so that you have that available for reference. A couple of suggestions for how the commission could handle the initial screening. Ranking from 1 to 45 may not be feasible. That seems like a lot of applications to rank in a strict numerical order. Some suggestions that we came up with is you could still rank the top 25 applications and then leave the remaining applications unranked, and we would take all of the rankings from the commissioners and determine who received the highest scores based on the commissioner's input. So that's one option. Another option is you could take the pool of 45 and you could give all of them a priority. So they could be priority 1, that you definitely want to interview them, priority 2, and priority 3. So every application would receive either priority 1, 2, or 3. We would then associate those priorities with scores and help you come up with the top 15 who received the highest scores. To the extent that more than 15 applicants, that scoring would result in more than 15 applicants moving forward, we could help you conduct a random drawing to determine which ones would be interviewed to help make the interview process more feasible. A third option is that the commissioners could nominate as many people as they wanted to. So if you wanted to nominate 10 people to be interviewed, if you wanted to nominate 40 people to be interviewed, each individual commissioner could go through all the applications and make those nominations. And then we would tally those nominations, and the individuals, the top 15 individuals, for example, with the most nominations could move forward on in the process. And Chair O'Donnell, unless you'd prefer, I'll continue with the remainder of the process and then open it up to the commissioners, unless you want to, if you'd prefer to stop now and discuss the initial screening process.
What I'd like to do is just real quick, ask everyone if they're staying with you. I've been through this process, so it's pretty straightforward to me, but does anyone else having an issue keeping up with her? Okay, let's just keep going then, Gary. Oh, I'm sorry, Jill.
I would just add, I'm following, I think Carrie's doing a great job and I agree with everything she has said. I would just make, so it's clear for the commissioners who haven't been through this process before, there are certain parts of this process that are mandated by the charter, and then other parts that are subject to your purview and can be adjusted as you see fit. So, for example, the first step would be for the commission to, not the first step, but the commission's immediate charge is to take this total pool of applicants and cull it down to 10. So that's the charge under the charter, is to evaluate their qualifications as they're laid out there and bring it down to 10. And from that pool of 10, the city clerk will randomly select 4, those 4 will select 3. So that part of the process is dictated by the charter. But the other part of the process on how the commission gets there and how many they choose to interview and those kind of intermediate steps to get to that pool of 10, that's within the commission's purview to go with what we did previously or choose something different, add to, amend, what have you. Another option that you might consider is just for each commissioner to choose their top 10. If you had to choose the 10 best, because we know we have to get to 10, if you had to choose your 10 best, what would those be? Without having to rank them 1 to 10. So those, I just wanted to be clear on what you have to do and what you can amend and what you can change.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, Carrie, you're doing great.
Wait,
Commissioner, I'm sorry to interrupt. I did have a question.
I did too. Go ahead.
The process is, it's well understood, and obviously a lot of thought was given to it. My question is, was it very successful, and did you wind up with the 7 candidates that really performed well and the deliverable was acceptable in the end, the package that they came up with? So did it work?
Yeah, in my opinion, quite well. I mean, there's a Presidential Medal of Freedom hanging on this process somewhere down the road. Yeah, it worked well, very well, I thought. But Jill, your side of the house, what did you think?
I agree. It was our first bite at the apple. And we spent a lot of time on it and a lot of deliberation on it and a lot of research into what other jurisdictions had done. The end product, I think, was excellent. I think we had a great commission. I think they worked hard. I think they did what they were charged with doing, and they did it with a lot of thoughtfulness and integrity. And I think it worked well.
I have a question. Do we want to discuss the process of narrowing it down from 45 to those that are going to be interviewed? Do we want to discuss that process now or later?
I would suggest we let Carrie finish the entire process brief first, and then, but yeah, let's do that if we could.
Okay.
Anyone else? One once, twice. All right, Carrie.
Okay, so following the initial screening and determining those candidates who will be interviewed, next would be the interview process. So in the past, the last round, the interviews were held over 2 public meetings in person where the candidates could sit out in the lobby, come in to be interviewed, and then leave. Now that we're operating in a virtual world, that scenario is very difficult to carry out. And that's because we have no way of preventing people from joining the meeting. We wouldn't necessarily know who was watching the meeting if it was important to the commission that, each candidate, that nobody be given an advantage by being able to hear everyone else's answers. And so we came up with a couple of alternatives that you might consider. One of them is you could simply have the candidates submit a written candidate statement as opposed to doing an interview. You could ask them to answer certain questions that were important to you. I realize that takes out, the face-to-face interview, and that may be important to the commission moving forward. Another option is that we could arrange to do live, sort of socially distanced interviews, where it would be a meeting just like this for the Charter Review Commission, but then probably myself and Christina would be at City Hall. We would invite the candidates to come to City Hall, have them come into a conference room and sit before you, say on my computer, and do their interview, and then they would leave. So they wouldn't be joining individually, but they would be coming to interview, and that way the commission could speak with them verbally. Still potentially the challenge that, you know, they would be able to watch each other's interviews. You know, if we may not necessarily know if they were watching each other's interviews. And it's unlikely that all of the applicants would be able to come in physically on the same day. So if you held that over 2 days, then of course you're back to the issue where they could have watched the first set of interviews and kind of have a heads up about what the commission might be asking or looking for. You could always handle that by, you know, allowing a different type of process for those who weren't able to come in person if you wanted to do that. Another option would be we could request that the candidates record a video candidate statement, and they could answer specific questions that the commission wanted to hear. Myself and Christina and staff in my office can help the candidates with those recorded candidate statements, and then we could play them here for you on a WebEx meeting so that they would all be recorded in advance. The downside of that is you may not have the opportunity to ask follow-up questions. You know, we could potentially invite the applicants to the meeting, and the commission may be able to ask them follow-up questions, but they would all be on the call. So it would be difficult to, you know, kind of segregate them like the commission had been able to do in the past. So those are some options for the interview process that we came up with. I'm certainly happy to talk through additional options or ideas that you may have and try and help facilitate that however we can. Following the interviews, I think the process that the commission used last time for the selection and for the selection process can remain pretty much the same if the commission wants it to, unless it wants to change. So Leah, if you wouldn't mind scrolling down, I think it's on page 3 or maybe 4 on this document that has section C and D right there. So after the Charter Review Commission interviewed the candidates, it went through a process of selecting from the 15 down to the 10. So at the conclusion of the meeting, each commissioner was able to vote for 5 candidates, and each candidate that received 4 or more votes were included in the pool of 10, and the commission just continued going through that process until they had a pool of 10. After the pool of 10 is created, then as Joe mentioned, we'll do a random drawing to determine who the first 4 are. And then those first 4 will be seated as the first members of the 2020 Redistricting Commission, and they'll select from the remaining pool of applicants to seat the final 3 applicants, and then those will go forward to the City Council for ratification. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to talk through any options and facilitate however I can.
Okay, any questions? Barry? Is that a yes, James?
It's not a question for Carrie. It's just a comment for everyone.
Go for it.
Want me to go ahead?
Sure.
Well, there's 2 issues. One is the narrowing it down from 45 to some manageable number. The one choice was to give numbers to the first 25, and then the other 20. I mean, I don't like that option because the other 20 are all zeros or 26. I don't know how you assign the points. The priorities 1, 2, 3. I kind of like that idea. Ranking them all is kind of arbitrary, I think. You know, who's 35 and who's 34. Choosing the 10 best might work. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts on that issue.
I've got a question for clarity.
Harry, I'll be right back. Go ahead.
Idea here, as I understand it, is there are 7 positions. How many positions are there to be filled, and are we limited in how we fill them? Is there any limit to that? Hopefully I didn't miss a whole bunch of information, but
7 is the number by charter.
So we have 7.
The final districting in this case, Redistricting Commission will be composed of 7 members. The
And we
Charter
have-
Review Commission's charge is to narrow the current applicant pool down to 10 applicants. From those 10 applicants, 4 will be randomly selected. Those 4 will be seated on the commission, and they will be charged with choosing the additional 3 to make up the 7.
Is it, so that's what I wanted to be clear on is we don't have a choice on whether we can select all 7. We can only select 4 by some
You can actually only select the pool of 10.
10.
That's what the Charter Review Commission will do.
Can I ask where's that? Where
It's in
is
the
that?
charter.
It's in the charter. So this is from the charter. Okay.
Yes.
So it's getting late in the day for me. I apologize, but we're looking to somehow cull 10 out and then 4 from those.
You're gonna cull it down to 10,
Right.
and then of those 10, we will randomly select 4.
Okay. All right.
And I'm going to jump to Carrie here in just a moment. What we're doing right now, excuse me, is just trying to make sure we understand what our responsibilities are. After we go through public comment, then we can open up to motions and have some further discussion. So back to you.
Well, you're one step ahead of me, Chair. I was just going to suggest that the commission, and Jill certainly can weigh in, that the commission limit it to questions at this time and then open it up for any public comments. And then the commission can proceed with deliberations and any action that they may want to take on this item. And also to address Commissioner Glanz's question, there are some requirements as well in the charter about who's eligible to serve, and then also what the commission the commission should be taking into consideration. Jill, if you'd like, I could read that section
Sure.
about, so let me see here. This is in section 300.5B, number 3. And so let me see here, excuse me, just one moment. So the goal of the selections is to ensure that to the extent possible and as permitted by law, that the redistricting or the districting commission includes women and men who reflect the racial, ethnic, and geographic diversity of the city, persons who have relevant knowledge and or demonstrated analytic abilities that would allow the commission to carry out its responsibilities with a high degree of competence, and persons who have demonstrated the ability to serve impartially in a nonpartisan role, persons who have experience in the areas of public communication and or public outreach in the city, and persons who have experience in civic and or volunteer activities in the city. So that's also spelled out in the charter just as a goal of the selections for the Redistricting Commission. So I hope that further answers your question.
Yes, thank you. I'm curious about the background of that charter, but I guess I won't have time for that now. Okay, I get it. You just have to figure out how we want to do it then. Okay.
Anyone else on the clarification of the responsibilities we have as a commission on this item? Okay. What I'd like to do now is open this up for the commenting period for 2 minutes for the public to submit anything they may have on this issue. Okay, the commenting period for this item is now closed. Did we receive any comments?
We have one comment. But I don't believe that it is relevant to the item. Should I read it?
Sure.
Hello, Council. Would like to know why city has not kept up with providing safe, viable bike lanes for its constants to access our parks and coastline. Imperial Beach and National City. Yes, even National Cities stepped up to the plate. They have wide green painted lanes now that biking has become ever so popular. In our case, we need safe corridors going east, west, and north to south. Yes, we know of the improvements to our marina, but we need to get there and without having to drive there, which we do now. And that's not safe without properly marked bike lanes. We know the wheels of government turn slow, but in some cities, they turn a little faster. Thank you for your time.
Well, my first thought is that belongs for the city council, but is there a way we can vet that back with the individual who submitted? I think we tried today and couldn't get a hold of them.
Yes, Chair O'Donnell, we did try and weren't able to get a hold of the submitter. The email address that we had wasn't successful in contacting him. So we wanted to provide it to you because they submitted it for tonight's meeting. If he or she is listening, please contact us or submit that again for next week's council meeting. Thank you.
Okay, so in lieu of that, I don't believe any deliberation or entertainment of this motion is required. Any other comments on that?
That's correct, Chair O'Donnell. It was public comment. Just take it for what you will, and you can continue with your deliberations.
Okay, here comes the fun part.
Can I make a quick comment? Can we refer this to the Sustainability Department? I think that's their purview.
Sure, we can pass it on. Thank you.
Okay. This is where now we please discuss any options you have for the process we'll follow to carry out our responsibilities on this item. Floor is open.
Can we get rid of the shared screen?
There you go. Okay, well, one option obviously is to follow the existing process. Another option someone may have is for an amendment to that process, and we're all ears. What do you got?
I think that we should change this process, at least just the initial screening, because we have so many applicants. 45 to go down to 10 is a lot. And I know that some suggestions were made, but I think that we should do something to, weed out people easier.
Let me make sure I understand what you said, Rachel. Is you want to follow the process for the first step?
Not the first step. I changed the initial screening process because we have more than 25 applicants, but the rest of the process, starting with B in the process all the way to E is suggesting the initial screening process.
You're breaking up pretty bad, but do you have a different first process you would recommend?
Not yet. I was thinking we could talk about that possibly. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else have some ideas?
Yeah, this is Jan. I think the goal of getting down to 15 and doing interviews at 15, I think we should stick with that. But as far as how we get there, I think the maybe the priority system would work and have the clerk's office basically take our priorities and who ranks the highest, prioritized to get to 15, and then figure out how we want to do the interviews. And I don't know a charter. I don't think requires us to have the interviews at meetings, but in the material it looked like the last time the commission was selected, they were interviewed in public meetings. It's probably a thing to do, but it looks like our big time crunch right now, and we need to figure out how we're going to do that pretty quick. And just for the record, I don't have any problem doing a socially distanced interview process, whether it's us getting all together in a big conference room or council chambers or something like that, where everybody could space out, or spread out as opposed to spacing out, because someone else might be spacing out right now. But anyway, those are my thoughts.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Commissioners. Sorry to interrupt. We actually did receive another comment, and I've emailed it to you. I can read it if you'd like.
Yes, please, if you could read it.
Sure. Hi, thank you, Commissioners, for taking my comments. I would like to state that I support the third process that was explained, where each commissioner nominates who they want and the most nominated candidates move forward to the next round. I believe this is the same process the City Council uses when they need to fill a vacancy. I found this process to be open, fair, and transparent. I hope you consider this process. Kind regards, Robert Moreno. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert, for the input.
Yeah, if I may. I remember a while back, I think it was a few years now, had to be filled with the council, and there was a lot of controversy about how it was done, and that actually ended up being vetted. And if Mr. Moreno's talking about a process being in place for replacing a council member, I would think that probably would be a good process for us to use. I don't know where that process is, be it in the charter or the code or whatnot, but I remember there was a lot of controversy, and again, it was vetted because of that controversy, and we might want to just do it that way. That was the one part of my, while I have the floor, the other thing I wanted to say is I'm tending to like the idea of having in-person interviews with spacing and where we can get everybody that's going to be interviewed down at or near City Hall, so we can somehow assure that they're not listening into others' interviews. But I think it's important to see people. I'm a firm believer that the vast majority of communication is nonverbal, and that's what I'd like to do. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So I just have a, I don't know, comment, suggestion. It really is step that we're facing right now is to whittle the 45 down into a smaller population that we've said all of these would be acceptable candidates because of the random selections. So it's like get from 45 to 15 if that's the magic number. That's the first step that we need to be working on. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So
That is the process that the commission took last time. The final goal is to get to 10. So
I'm just talking that first step. So that first step.
That's one decision point, I guess was my point, is that's one decision point is how many do you want to interview? It doesn't have to be 15, but that is what they interviewed last time.
Right. But that's the first step, is to decide what's the process of taking 45 down to a number to be established that goes into the random pool, which is 10, right? I mean, that's in the charter. We give you 10, you randomly select 4, and then they interview and select the additional 3. So the process from 45 to, I'll just use 15 as talking purposes because it's such a large number. That's the immediate challenge that we want to tackle and get the ball rolling very quickly is what I understood. I think Christina said it. That process isn't like completely described, but it's a ranking activity. And we just need to say, do we take all 45? Do we come up with our top 10? Or do we take all 45 and come up with, these are the characteristics that are weighted from 4 to 1, and I give a point for 4 if they have the analytical ability. I give a 3 for they have volunteered successfully in the community and they're involved. And then I give some type of ranking to diversity. Is it gender, race, and geographic? There's a point system that we should follow to come up with 15 candidates that reflect the diversity that we're after, not only geographically, district by district, but also to reflect the population. That's really the first decision that we need to make to get to the number. Correct?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you're kind of describing in education, there's holistic grading where you read the paper and you give it a grade, or you have a rubric where you get so many points for different parts of the evaluation. That's a lot more work to come up with a rubric, but it's more accurate possibly.
It's already created if you want to use the existing. There were 4 areas to rate them on. They're in the.
What about the diversity analysis? Do we take that into consideration?
That comes from city staff.
So there are 4, and the diversity consideration is kind of an overlay. So there's the objective kind of background and experience criteria. And then there's the overlay of, does this pool look like our city makeup? So you want to get to that goal as well. So that's why last time there was that, okay, these are the top that we believe, are the most qualified. And then we did the overlay of the diversity application, which we did use. We had our city staff run those numbers. And then we went back and said, do you want to add to this pool? Because we don't have enough to represent the diversity of the city. So that's kind of how that's intended to work.
Thank you. That's a good explanation. So Chair O'Donnell, is it appropriate that we stick with what we've done in the past? More work is not necessarily better. Stick with what we've done before, come up with the number, let's say 15, that gives us some buffer for the diversity equation. And if we didn't get enough, I would predict it would be challenging if you only come up with 10 diverse. To go with 15, we rate and rank from the existing process that was described in detail earlier. And then that could get us, if we all did that separately, we would come up with our individual list of top 15 candidates. And then we submit that for discussion and review to come up with a consensus of 15. You understand what I'm asking? If I come
That's your call. Once you get the list of 15, let's say, that goes to the city clerk and her staff will do a diversity analysis. If memory serves, last time we didn't have enough diversity. That's why we went up to 17 or 18 to encompass more people. That now, as far as the way to get down to the top 10 is your decision, or this committee's decision. We did a point basis. The city clerk ranked the top 25 for us. And then after interviews, if I remember right, we were able to pull it down. But either way, I would just recommend you would be wise for the commission to have the whole process defined before we begin as a matter of openness and for the perception that we're trying to game the system.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Personally, I really love the video idea for interviews. I think that's the best way to prevent people from tapping other people's interviews.
This is Jim again. I like the video thing too. And I was thinking they could do a combination of a written statement and a very short video. And by short, like 3 minutes. Because if you do a 3-minute video, Then you got to think about it for 2 minutes. That's 5 minutes. If there's 15 of them, that's an hour and a half just for the interviews. But I'm sure the interviews took longer than that in the past. But anyway, it's a thought.
Yeah,
So
and
if I-
hopefully go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to jump in based on just kind of things that we've talked about as staff as well as the prior experience. I think the first challenge, as you've all identified, is getting from 45 down to a manageable number to interview and then get to your 10 or 15 or whatever you may choose. And so a couple of ideas that we batted around were to come up with, each commissioner would come up on their own, independently come up with their top 10. And then when you come back together, you could go around the table and, you know, present your top 10, and maybe 4 of you all have the same 10 lists, and then that's kind of an easy decision because now you've got 4 votes on the 10 already. Or alternatively, you could round table, and you could start with one commissioner and they could submit their most qualified candidate, and you could take a vote on that, and then you could go around the table from each of those until you get your top, you know, votes, the most votes on your top candidates. I don't know, Carrie, Christina, do we have some other ideas just on how to logistically get to that number? Those are some ideas we batted around.
How about ranked? I have an idea. I'm sorry. Was there a question out there that I jumped in on?
No, go ahead. Ranking was
Okay.
one as well. They did the 1 through 25 ranking last time.
I've got it. My idea is, well, I lost it now. Go ahead.
Let me just interject here for a moment. To rank the top 25, you're independently doing that. Whether you invoke a priority method, you read each resume and mark all these different Excel spreadsheet boxes, that's your call. What you need to bring to the table is your top 25, if that's your number, for Carrie to then take and rank and rate what we all came up with as a group. And it'll be different than what your rating was.
This is Jim. I think you got to rank all 45. If you chop off 20 of them, maybe my 20 are chopped off on some people's and they get no consideration whatsoever. But on other people, I mean, I think you got to do them all. Or you could put them in groups of 5.
Well, I think you will review them all. But
I know you review them all, but I think you got to rank them all if you're going to do ranked choices.
I think if you rank the top 25 to get to 15, then you'll probably have the same number, at least for the top 15. So
I think that each commissioner, we should choose our top 10, like Jill was just saying, and then we can come together and see if there's a consensus on any of them or how we would move forward to get to our 10. But that means that we would each review all 45. So all of the applications would be looked at to meet all of these standards. And I think it would be kind of less work on us. We could do it separately and then come together with all of our top 10.
I'm thinking that the number should be greater than 10. And each of us on our own rank, say 25, important. And I think it warrants the time and attention. I think suggest is to rank, each of us rank, and then see what we come up with, and go from there. You see if that ferrets out. I'm thinking more like 20 people to interview, 25 even.
Here's my concern. If you rank, take your top 25 ranking. Let's say there's one person, every single one of us ranked at 26. Okay. That person should be given serious consideration. the fact if they get ranked in the 40s or whatever isn't what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about somebody who might be number 26 on everybody's ticket or 25 or 4. So they're in that range where they got a lot going for them, but they don't make the cut. So I like that if you come with your best 10, they're not ranked, but you're the 10 that you really like, then everyone would have a voice. I could say I pick one and Edgar picks one, and it's only on 2 lists, but we can try and talk people into seeing the merits of that person. So each pick our top 10 or 12 or 15. That's not the issue, but I don't like ranking them unless you're going to rank them all. And I don't like ranking them all.
I like that. Picking your top 20 some. That's what I would say.
Okay, I think we need a motion here pretty soon, or we're going to be debating this back and forth all night. Jan?
We need to decide how many we're going to interview.
Right.
That's a number we need to decide tonight.
Well, I think you're going to get an approximation because we're going to come up with, say, 15, and then city clerk's going to tell us, you know what, you don't have enough diversity, you're going to have to make it 18.
That's fine, but as long as
Okay.
we have a target, then that's
All
what
right.
we need.
Okay. Anybody want to throw a motion out there for a target?
Edgar has something.
Edgar?
I have a question. Similar to Jan's thing about just the number, I think we need to agree on a number before we proceed, right?
I agree. 25 seems pretty high. I mean, if each of the 7 come up with 25, it just seems like everybody will be on the list. I would advocate that we come up with our top 12, kind of split the hairs. And then that's something we can do immediately. Then we get together and review that. I think what you'll find is there's probably 5 that are going to be on everybody's list. Then you have a little bit of dialogue from everyone's remaining 7. And the cream will float to the top when we come up with 15 for the interview process.
I agree.
I like that.
Oh, you want to put that into a motion, Dean?
I don't think I could say it again. But
Let me try.
yes.
Or you want to do it?
I was just joking, and just reject me if I make a mistake, but I motion that each commissioner comes up with their top 12 to submit to one another for further review, to down select to a total of 15 to submit to the city for diversity review.
I'll second that.
That sounds good to me. Let's vote on it.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes, would you please?
sure. I will now request each member's vote by roll call.
What about
Chair
comments?
O'Donnell?
Do we need public comments?
Oh, yes, we do.
Yeah, we do. We do. All right. So, excuse me, my bad. I will now open public comment for 2 minutes on this subject.
Hi, Chair O'Donnell. I just realized we've already done the timer for this item.
Is that right?
Yes.
We gave him a second one. We're almost there.
Okay.
Okay, I am now closing the commenting period for this item.
Okay, no other comments for this item.
Thank you. Now we can do the roll call on the motion.
Chair O'Donnell, just by way of clarification on the motion.
Okay.
It may be implicit in the motion, but I just wanted to clarify for everyone's knowledge. Is it to amend the process before you as stated by Chair Disharoon, and the rest of the process is adopted as well? Or are we just adopting this one step in the process and then we'll come back to the other parts?
My understanding is we're just working on the first step of this process. We still have to ask ourselves a couple more questions about the remainder of the process. Is that how others are reading this as well?
I think that's how it stands,
I didn't
yes.
hear that.
Yeah, yeah. I
Thanks for
agree.
the
That cool, Jewel?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify, but I think I heard someone didn't hear the clarification.
Oh. We're only right now agreeing on the first step of the process, which would be a mod to the existing process. Okay. Let's get it. What do we got, Marissa?
Okay, I want to request each member's vote by roll call. Chair O'Donnell,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schofield,
Aye.
Commissioner Budding,
Aye.
Commissioner Disharoon,
Aye.
Commissioner Glantz,
nay.
Commissioner Hopita,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so to recap right now, the first step, everyone's going to go off and pick their top 12. After that top 12 is going to bring that with you to the next meeting. Through the means of a roundtable, you're perhaps going to make that list 15 to help ensure you've got diversity. At that point, you're going to hand it over to the city clerk to verify you've got the diversity you're hoping to have, or at least to get an accurate picture of what diversity is available from those top 15 candidates. You'll give that back to us. And now this is the part where I'm going to offer the motion. You're going to take that 15 or 12, whatever it happens to be, and get down to 10 by virtue of roundtable discussion. That's my motion.
So you're not,
Breaking up.
oh, so your motion is to not have an interview process to get from 15 to 10?
Yeah, I left that out. That wasn't my intent. So I'm going to retract my motion and cut it right there. Thank you for catching.
Can we hear that again, please, or at least what the motion
Yeah,
is?
I'll try it again. All right. So what we have agreed to is how we're going to get to the first top 12, or if necessary, 15 for diversity purposes. What we need to decide next is how you're going to get that list down to 10. We've discussed interviews. There's two possible ways to go forward with the interviews as I'm hearing it. One is a social distancing interview process at City Hall. The other is perhaps instead of a 3-minute, a 2-minute video submittal by each candidate of the top 12 or 15 for the commission to review to help them get to their top 10.
I thought the motion we just passed was to bring the number to 15 for interviews, plus whatever diversity gets added. I thought you had said 12.
I heard 12 to 15. I heard rate you top 12. If necessary for diversity to go higher, we would go higher.
The intent that I had was for each commissioner to come up with their top 12. And then we would submit 15 to I don't know the name of the team that's going to be reviewing for diversity, but they take our list of 15 and they add to if they need to for additional diversity. That was the intent of my motion.
And I think that's what you
I
said.
hate to do this, but what are the criteria?
You're gone.
I have a question. What are the criteria for the diversity? Is that some sort of a logarithm that I think I think we need to know what that means. What's going to go into calling? I
We're
need to know how that
closely matching
works.
the existing city demographics as best we can. It's a ratio. We're not going to obviously have the same, but if there's, say, 30% of the citizens of Chula Vista are white, that's one of the diversity numbers we would look for in this committee. If 40% are Hispanic, we would look to see, do we have 1% Hispanic or a number close to the actual representation of the population?
For me, it's not defined specifically enough. I don't understand how those factors are going to play in and who decides that. Diversity is important, but how is that determined? I don't see the clarity there.
The city clerk will give us the actual diversity numbers and other demographic factors. Then the commission will sit there and review what she presents us to decide right then and there what we feel is adequate diversity.
So there are specific criteria. If you look at section 1 in the process in front of you, 1A through D, that criteria is related to experience and qualifications. So that is a more objective criteria. And then the overlay of the diversity is intended to be just that, as an overlay and a look at the bigger picture. And do we have a pool where we can get to something that, as close as possible matches our diversity in the population. So it's not intended to be a strict criteria. In fact, we can't, legally go to that level, but we want to have consideration given to those factors as well. So you have some objective criteria that you can use to determine who should come back for your interviews and to get into your pool. And then we want to do that overlay analysis of, are we meeting our diversity goals as well?
We would deliberate on and make final determination at each step. Is that right? Except
Can't hear you.
Is the commission? Will the commission ultimately make the final decision at each step after deliberating? I think there's one point in there where there's a random select at the end.
Correct. After you turn in your top 10, the city clerk will randomly select 4.
Okay.
No, after we
as I
decide the
understand,
top 10.
Yes, after we decide the top 10, we give that to the city clerk to randomly, i.e., put her hand in the jar and pull out 4 names.
Okay.
So what I understand we have right now is a way to get to 15. We're going to each select 12. We're going to do the round table, get 15 from there, submit it to the clerk. If the diversity passes, then those are the 15 that we're going to interview. Right? So now we need to decide. Now we need to decide how we're going to do the interviews.
We're assuming everyone thinks there should be an interview of some sort.
We have to have an interview if we're going to have 15.
You don't have to have an interview.
Well, we have to get it down to 10 because we can.
Right, they could do written statements.
That's true. They can do written statements. In other words, I'm talking about the interview process.
Okay.
I'm not thinking about how we're doing it. I'm just saying that there's going to be, our goal is to get 15 people to the interview process. We now need to decide what that interview process is going to look like. So that's what we should be talking about now.
Yes.
Yes.
And I've already said I'd be fine doing in person at council chambers. I have a concern about people preparing their own videos because then you're going to be relying upon somebody's technical expertise to present themselves. I'm not real keen on that. Done enough of these WebEx, Zoom meetings that I know that some people are really challenged when it comes to that kind of stuff. Some people may not have the technical, excuse me, capabilities to do that. So
I'd like to make a comment about doing an actual in-person, socially distanced interview process. Is that I personally, at this time, for health reasons, could not go to City Hall and participate. On the other hand, I could stay home and participate remotely, but what about a person who's a candidate who also for health reasons feels they can't go to City Hall? We'd have to make adjustments for that.
Yeah, I agree. Thinking it through further. Yeah.
Carrie has a comment, Tom.
Just to throw out a couple of thoughts that that I have on that. One is I wouldn't envision the full commission coming in and the commissioners being present. I would imagine that you would all be participating on WebEx, and we would invite the interviewees to come in, and they would, come and join my screen, do their interview. We would sanitize everything, send them out, and have the next person come in. We'd probably, maybe have 2 stations set up like that to keep the interviews rolling. So that's one thought. I don't think the city's policy at this time would even allow the full commission to meet in person at City Hall. So I just wanted to put that out there. The other thought is that on the video recordings, my staff can assist with the logistics of that. So if people don't have the technology, or they don't have the expertise to be able to do that. I know it's very challenging, for a lot of us, even those of us who use it all the time, that we could have them come down, individually and do a socially distanced video recording with one of us personally, so that we could help them with the recording. We could also do a WebEx meeting with them like this, an individual one-on-one WebEx meeting, and record it to present that to you. So we can also do what we can to help facilitate that process as well. So I just wanted to put those thoughts out there for your consideration.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, at some point, people are going to have a degree of sophistication about them. It's in the criteria we're going to rank them with. So with Carrie's help or on their own, I would think that couldn't be too insurmountable for them to put together a 2-minute video on your phone, even if you wanted to. But I'm open either way.
I like Terry's first idea about having them come in, because I think we need to be able to ask questions. There could be people on there who we don't know about. In other words, they weren't in my top 12, for example. So I might have some questions that I need to ask that particular person. So having a WebEx type of thing, and I especially like the idea that Carrie said, having 2 stations set up so we can go boom, boom, boom through the whole process kind of thing.
If I may, I'm thinking that if we are not going to be there in person, it's not right to require people to show up in person in public. So I would suggest that everything be by web, and somehow make it so that people can't watch other people's interviews. I think it all should be by web. We're not going to be there.
We can prepare questions in advance to ask people, and I suppose you could have different questions for different people. I don't know. Is that kosher?
I disagree.
What we did in the past was one question. It was basically, well, why do you want to be on this commission? And the interview is really to assess them as a competent individual who can speak clear thoughts. We're not looking for the right essay necessarily. It's just an opportunity for this person to showcase their talent. Jan, I hear what you're saying about being able to ask questions, and that does come up from my experience. However, I do agree that if we, for health reasons or otherwise, just because we have fear of COVID, don't want to go to City Hall, I have a hard time forcing other people to do what I wouldn't do.
So we stick with the one question, and then we can pivot off of that question, and that's in the existing material that you sent out. The commissioners could ask clarification type question if they needed further dialogue. So the candidate answers the one question, why do you want to serve on the commission? And then each commissioner gets an opportunity to ask for clarification or a little bit of a deeper understanding off of that one question.
That will work in a live interview. Yes. It will not work on a video interview. We won't have the opportunity to ask clarifying questions.
We couldn't
Yeah.
do something like this.
Yeah, something like this.
Everybody talks at once in my Zoom meetings, my family.
Well,
do
bear in
that.
mind, we don't want the public necessarily listening in to the interview. And then when I say public, I mean someone who else is also going to be interviewed.
Okay, that's the challenge then. It has to be a public forum. I got you.
Yeah, Carrie has to tell us what's possible there and what isn't.
Maybe that's a reason why they have to, why the candidates would have to show up, because we don't want to give an unfair advantage to somebody by being able to listen in. If it is all by web, how do you keep the candidates from listening in other than the honor system?
Well, that's the challenge, but requiring people to show up is also unfair, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Gary,
Maybe
any thoughts on how we can secure the interview to be not listened or visually seen by other interviewees?
That's a technology question. Yeah.
Yeah,
don't know.
it's a challenging question because the interviewees could, potentially join the meeting, and that's part of why we were suggesting maybe a pre-recorded video or a combination of, pre-recorded video if someone didn't have the capability and weren't comfortable coming in to have us assist. Maybe the commission would want to consider a written statement. We could potentially have the interviewees, if the commission maybe wanted to do that as a first step, we could potentially have the interviewees join a meeting like this and, allow them to unmute and answer specific questions. But again, they would all be on the call and able to hear each other. So I realize this is it's a difficult situation to navigate, considering especially also that it's required to be a public meeting. So we couldn't force them not to come. It's just as a courtesy that we ask them not to come. One other option, I think, we still wouldn't know if they were listening in or not, but another option, instead of having them all join to allow the commission to ask clarifying questions, is I could call them on my phone individually. So I could call them one at a time, have them come on the line and verbally answer questions that the commission had. And that way we could ask them not to join the meeting. I would just call them, in a certain order and have them answer questions. Of course, you wouldn't see them on the video because they wouldn't be present here with me. But if they did a recorded video interview and then you wanted to verbally ask follow-up questions, that may be another option that you could consider.
Technologically speaking, Carrie, we would have to do separate meetings for each person in order to keep other people from joining, right? In other words, like the meeting that was set up tonight, we get a link, click on the link, and boom, we're all here. If we did separate meetings, we would have basically 15 different links. As soon as we're done, we can get out and click onto the next meeting kind of thing. But the person who's being interviewed, they would only get linked to one meeting and they wouldn't be able to listen to anybody else, right?
Yes, technically that would work, but because of the Brown Act and allowing the public to join these meetings, that would be very difficult because then the public would have to be required to log into all these different meetings if they wanted to observe all of the individual interviews. So technically speaking, that would work, but with open meeting laws, that presents some problems.
That's what I was going to say. We got to remember these have to be open.
Yeah,
they'd be open. They just wouldn't be as easy as this meeting is to attend.
I got a hand in the air from Edgar here, gentlemen.
So are you saying that the interview itself is a public meeting? Wow, okay.
Yes, it is.
So the Brown Act does apply to interviews for candidates for the Redistricting Commission. Okay.
So maybe we manage by exception. And I agree with what Todd is getting at, don't ask us to do it, but we're going to ask the candidates to do it. Do the social interviewing, and that way we can keep purity to the interview process, and they can't watch one another be interviewed. Ask them all to come down, and then but also give them are you comfortable with doing a socially distanced? And then we deal with people that, are uncomfortable with coming into the city hall. And you manage by exception.
That went through my mind as well. Maybe we should try that and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody accepts the invitation, then we don't have a problem.
Right.
I can sit at City Hall when it's not my turn for an interview, and I can whip on my iPad and watch the interviews. So that doesn't work.
Also, you're putting undue pressure on people to risk their health, perhaps, because they feel in-person's more advantageous than recording. Or
I think, can't we assure people that we will not take into consideration, they're uncomfortable or not? Well, maybe not. Maybe not. It's exceptional times, and maybe a video presentation, if we're up against a timeline, then that's perhaps the only thing we can do, to be fair. Video presentation, we'll just have to go with it. It can't be delayed, I assume. That's a question. Until the
we have
pandemic.
limited time to get this done, but we have time. Yeah, I'm leaning, honestly, folks, I strongly recommend we go with the video. And Carrie's group is there to assist, and that she can give equal assistance. So that's equal opportunity. What they do with it is their business. So I will motion. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it looks like we've, painted ourselves into that corner that's the best solution. But that solution also affords us an opportunity in the all-up meeting in front of one another to ask some additional questions off of that video statement. Is that what we're talking about, Chair?
We wouldn't be able to ask the interviewee. We would just be asking amongst ourselves or talking amongst ourselves. After we view a interviewee's video, let's say a 2-minute video, we could spend anywhere from 0 to 5 minutes to discuss what we heard or didn't hear and move on. We would rank and score as we hear the video.
Is it feasible to be able to ask the people in the open meeting, any probing questions off of that video submittal?
I think that would be a nightmare.
I think that's something that we should keep as a possibility. You can always make the motion.
Remember, everyone in the city could be watching this and listening.
Exactly. You can't get around that.
Well, the meeting that we're going to have to look at the videos, if we're looking at the videos, it's going to be a public meeting, right? So
correct.
Couldn't we, or couldn't Carrie during that meeting, if we had a question for a particular person, then call that person and talk to that person over a video conference?
She offered that earlier.
It still has to be available to the entire public.
It'll be during the meeting, and it'll be on audio, so everybody that's attending the meeting will be able to hear
it. Right, and it'll be, the video's already been submitted, so people can't go change their video.
Right. That probably, I think it sounds like doing a video with a component with the ability of calling and asking questions would be one way to do that.
Is that logistically feasible, Carrie, or is that going to present nightmares with that follow-up phone call?
That's feasible. I could do, a 3-way call on my phone and link it into the audio of the meeting here. At least 2 of my staff can do that so that we can try and keep things moving. The challenge might be people don't answer, their phones. We can, of course, ask everyone to be available, but just throwing out options that, I know probably will come up, but it's a good balance of at least providing that opportunity to the commission to ask follow-up questions and to the individuals to present something live in response to the commission. And, the commission may also want to consider options for people who they wouldn't be available by phone at the time, or, for whatever reason, they can't do a video. They can't come in person. They don't have the technology would the commission want to consider a written statement or something like that as an option as well?
The way we handled the availability of the individual to be in present was we let them pick a date. We gave them 2 dates and told them to go ahead and pick one. They're going to have to pick one or the other. If they can't, then they're not available for the commission either. That's just part of the criteria, buddy. You got to be available if you want to be considered. So, Jan, I think you have a motion.
I do.
Yes, you do. We're very eloquent.
I move.
What if you get the general idea first?
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. The general idea is to have each of the people selected for interviews submit a 2-minute video, 3-minute video. What does everybody think? 3? Good. I'm glad nobody's signaling 1 minute with their middle finger. So submit a 3-minute video with the understanding that they need to be on standby, phone standby for the sessions in which we're considering their video. And
Edgar Holt.
and if we have any questions, we will call them and they will be linked into the meeting.
Edgar Holpita seconds that motion.
It wasn't a motion yet.
Not yet. Hang in there, Edgar, but not yet.
Oh, I thought that was the motion. Okay,
That's really close. I like it.
So
We're
should
gonna
I
do it by.
formalize that? Is there any?
If it's going to be by, why not make it video?
No, it's not going to be by phone. Phone is there as a backup for the questions if needed after we viewed the video. Hey, honestly, folks, 3 minutes is a long time on a video. We could call it the elevator pitch. You got about 20 seconds going down from the top floor to the bottom floor to sell the Admiral on your idea. So 3 minutes I'll go with. You're just listening, lengthening your night.
I thought it was too short, actually. But what I meant was, if you're going to call, it might as well be by video. So there's 2 things I'm saying there.
The way that I would join them into the call, I typically join these WebEx calls on my cell phone. So my audio is not going through my computer, it's going through my cell phone. And that's how I would join someone else into the call or into the meeting itself. So I wouldn't be calling them on video. It would just be on audio to do the follow-up questions.
I am willing to say, they submit a 2-minute or 3-minute video and there's no follow-up questions. I'm comfortable with that.
I think we should give ourselves the option of calling, though.
I would agree. I think it should be 5 minutes.
Tom.
Yeah, you were muted, Tom.
Oh, I just said I agree, and I think it should be 5 minutes. I think I already said
Tom's lips were moving, but nothing was coming out.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, you probably won't call everyone anyway. There might only be 2 or 3 out of the whole bunch you want to call.
Exactly.
So
depends on the quality of the video.
Yeah, the ability to ask clarifying questions, I think, is important for us.
I do too.
So I go ahead and move that that the interview process consists of the people selected for the interview process submitting a 3-minute video, and that the interview process allows us the option of contacting the interviewee after we review the video and having the interviewee join the meeting telephonically for any follow-up questions.
I'll second.
Do you want to specify the question for the video, or can we do that later?
We can do that later. If they're really interested and they're smart enough to be on to make the last 15, they should be able to figure that out anyway.
Agreed. Okay, so I seconded the motion.
No, Edgar seconded it, I think.
Oh, okay. He beat me. That's fine. Marissa, could you do a call, please?
Yes. I will now request each member's vote by roll call. Chair O'Donnell.
Aye.
Vice Chair Schofield.
Aye.
Commissioner Budding,
Aye.
Commissioner Disharoon,
Aye.
Commissioner Glantz,
Aye.
Commissioner Hopita,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald.
Aye.
Very good. We're there. As far as other business for the evening, we have any staff comments to close this out?
No, I think I've given my comments already. Thank you, Chair O'Donnell.
Okay. Fellow commissioners, anyone with any comments to close this out?
Carrie's hands up.
Carrie's got him.
Carrie, okay.
Yes, as once this meeting concludes, we have the applications prepared and ready to send out to the commission. So we'll be forwarding those to you shortly. At this time, did the commission want to give us some direction on what you'd like the candidates to submit to you on the video, or did you said you'll do that at the next meeting to decide what specifically will be asked of them?
The next meeting was what we agreed upon.
Okay, thank you. And then as far as the process, so we have down the initial screening process and the interview process. Once we get the list down to the commission has conducted the interview, would you like to discuss that process and determine that process now of how those commissioners will be selected? Do you plan to use the same process that was used in the past, where where each commissioner will be given the opportunity to vote for 5 candidates, and each person who gets 4 or more votes will be put into the pool of 10, and then we'll continue that process until we have a pool of 10, or will that be discussed at a later time?
I was prepared to discuss that as a later time, but I'll open it up to the rest of the commission.
Well, I like that process. I think it's straightforward. Since it'll be a public meeting, I don't want to get into discussion about the pros and cons of different people, but you just vote for them.
I mean, Tom, you used it before. How did it work?
Fine. This is actually the one part we bogged down a little bit on, because we were haggling over 1 or 2 people that strong-minded people, believe it or not, on the commission wanted to see put on that panel. So I'm open for a different idea. It did work. We did reach the resolution.
Yeah, question. Did you have public attendees at the meeting last time?
Yes.
So all the arguing was in front of people.
Correct. It was diplomatic, tactful. Democracy.
How was the vote going to work after expiration?
The way that the commission handled it last time was at the following all of the interviews, each commissioner had the opportunity to vote for 5 candidates on a voting sheet. We'd have to do some kind of electronic version of that. Likely we would ask you verbally for the 5 candidates. And then each of the candidates who received 4 or more votes were put into the pool of 10. So in the first round, all the commissioners picked the top 5. Anyone who received 4 or more votes were included in the top 10. And then we continued going through that process until we had the pool of 10.
And is a motion made when questions are done and vote is to be taken? I guess that's the way that would work. There's just specifics that I'm not seeing, but we'd work them out as we go, I guess.
Well, no, the interviewer is not there necessarily, unless they want to come to the open meeting when we make the final call. But we're not asking questions anymore at this point. We're just voting on our final 10. 1 person at a time. 2
4 at a time, actually, right?
Well, anyone that has a 4 or more, when you get down to the 9th and 10th, you may not be getting 4 votes for people. That's where we bogged down a bit.
It's normal.
Yeah, we worked it out. But so I would recommend you stick with it. But, I'm not going to say that that's the only possible way to do it.
Well, I don't have a coherent alternative at this point, so I don't think I could argue against it.
Well, okay, Carrie, thanks for bringing this up. Why don't I'll make a motion that for the last step of the process, we stay with the existing process.
Second.
About a vote, please?
Sure. Chair O'Donnell,
Aye.
Vice Chair Schofield,
Aye.
Commissioner Budding,
Aye.
Commissioner Disharoon,
Aye.
Commissioner Glantz,
Aye. Were we supposed to open this in 2 minutes, though? Just to make sure, boy, is that out of order. But anyway,
Okay.
aye.
Commissioner Hopita,
Aye.
Commissioner McDonald.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, who seconded?
John.
I did. John did.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further staff comments? All right. How about commissioners? Any comments from you? All right. One last thing then for me, my commissioner. Let me just say, I was real honored to have been a member of the team to put together the process we've been discussing here for the last hour. And it's been kind of painful, to be honest with you. I've been down that rodeo. And quite honestly, I've been thinking about this for a bit. I've got 8 years and 8 months on this commission today. And I think it's time for me to hit up my horse and head for another rodeo. So I'm going to step down after tonight and let you people, good people, follow through. And I just want to say I'm very blessed to have made your acquaintance and to have spent a lot of time hashing out these issues with you. So I wish you all the best. And push on.
Don't be a stranger.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I want to thank you then. As I understand, you're done tonight. And so
I'm done.
Thank you very much for everything. I thought you've done a great job for the time I've had been on the commission with you. So we'll miss you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It was a pleasure, Tom, working with you.
All right. Hey,
Definitely.
Marissa, you were the greatest, by the way. And Jill, thank you for you've taught me a lot.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Tom. You've been a great addition to the commission. I think I've worked with you the longest of anyone on the screen tonight, and it's been a learning process for me as well. And you've taught me a lot, and I appreciated working with you. And thank you for your service to the city.
All right.
So
Well, everyone, take care.
Thank you.
We need to discuss one more thing before you all run away, and that would be the next meeting is currently scheduled for October 14th. And we're keeping that just to get it in the minutes. That is the current plan.
Quick
right.
question,
Yes.
Tom. Quick
Yes.
question. So don't we have to nominate a chair soon, or like how's that work?
Next meeting.
We
Okay.
do. We will add that to the next agenda. It's not agendized for tonight.
Stand by, Ed. All right, everybody. Take care. We'll see you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.